The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It is a Thursday, so we'll be taking your Thursday thoughts on a lot of things this morning. PSG dropped a bombshell on Thomas Tuchel. He is gone. Maurizio Pochettino, by all accounts, appears to be in Paris. Tons of fallout because now there's a few managers in England who might be looking over their shoulders. Mikel Arteta, maybe Ole, possibly. Tuchel's been linked to Manchester United for a while. It's a little bit of a surprise. We'll get into all the ins and outs of it and try to get you up to speed as we go this morning. Lots of other things to get into as well. So you want to send us your thoughts, you can do that a few different ways. You can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can send us an email, soccerdownhere@gmail. You can also join us on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. And let us know what you're thinking about on a Christmas Eve morning. MLS updates as well. DC United's coaching search continues. There is an update from Stephen Goff of the Washington Post. We had some moves around the league yesterday. Lots of different things to get into this morning. So thanks for taking some time and hanging out with us on a Thursday. Let's start, John, with the big one this AM. Went down a few hours ago. Thomas Tuchel out in Paris, and one of the things that led to it, first, he was out of contract in the summer, and it didn't look like he was going to get a new deal. So him not being there next season, not a surprise. Him not being there now is a bit of a surprise. But he gave an interview in Germany, a video interview before the game. And this seemed to be the last straw for PSG. He was quoted as saying in that interview that at times he felt more like a sports politician or a sports minister than a coach. After PSG beat Strasbourg 4-0, he tried to clarify those comments to Canal+. I didn't say it's more about politics than sport, nor that I lost the fun of training. This is not true. It is possible they translated incorrectly. Watch the video interview. I just said that PSG are unique and that it's a big challenge for me. It's always been like that. I like this challenge and nothing has changed. He was asked again about the remark, and he said, I gave a video interview to a journalist who told me to do a story about German coaches. It is not an interview for him. It is not allowed. I was making a joke in German. The translation is not correct. We cannot translate word for word. It was a joke while we were talking, and it is not allowed. The mic's always hot, first off. And,
yes.
And if somebody's... Well, it's... You didn't let me finish because it wasn't being broadcast live. The mic's always hot because everything is being recorded. If what he is saying at the end is true, and it was before the interview or they were asking him about German coaches for something else and it wasn't agreed to be used in this way, and it was, then that's really shady on the journalist side. We'll wait and hear if we hear anything from the journalist. The comment itself, there is translation here again, but it feels like PSG was looking for a reason to do this more than anything. It probably is a lot like a political job to be the manager at PSG. That there's really not a whole lot that's horribly offensive about that. That's what it is at any major club. There's a lot of politics you have to deal with at any kind of major club. So I think it was just the opening that PSG wanted, because a manager that it sounds like they have coveted for a while in Maurizio Pochettino, and he played there, so this is no surprise that Pochettino would be the guy. I mean, it's PSG. He's got a history there, and he's also pretty good. It sounds like they were looking for the opening to make sure they got him. I don't think Arsenal was going to be in the mix for Pochettino because of the history with Spurs, but you had the Manchester United thing looming. You had other jobs that could potentially open up for him. They wanted their opening. They found it. They took it, and now all the reports are that Pochettino could be announced any time at this point. It's just down to paperwork.
Yeah. If the journalist doing the interview with Tuchel, going back to your first point, if the journalist doing the interview with Tuchel decided to pull something from the conversation that was either before the conversation started off the record, before the conversation was over, and they're just wrapping up and they're just, having a conversation, and that was part of what got turned and what got flipped, that's just not cool.
No, not at all.
And to your point, yeah, I think that PSG was looking for a reason, and this gave them that reason to sit there and pull the trigger on Tuchel. So 1 + 1 gives you what we saw this morning, a little after 7 o'clock our time. But yeah, if this goes back to the journalist pulling something out of the conversation that had nothing to do with the interview in and of itself, and he pulled something away from the on the record part, yeah, that's not cool. But yeah, I think that gave PSG the door opening that they were looking for.
Yeah, this is craziness. Now, Bernd brings up another point, and this could be part of the relationship, and Thomas Tuchel has problems with relationship building. I don't know if this was ever fully fleshed out because there were so many other things going on at the time, but Bernd says, I think Tuchel was out the moment he tried to convince the players to stay on the field after the racist incident in the Champions League. He lost all moral authority if he ever had any. There wasn't a whole lot of follow-up on that aspect of it. I do remember the video where it looked like he was kind of like, what are we doing here? I want to say there was some audio from him. I really don't remember the details because there were so many other things that took precedence there. But it goes along with, his history. He's always had problems connecting to players, to coworkers, to bosses. The stories of him at Borussia Dortmund, and I don't know the full context of everything at Borussia Dortmund. It was kind of a wild ride in his couple of years there, but there's all these whispers of things. Melissa Reddy, who writes for The Independent, she wrote, on Thomas Tuchel, having spoken to a few people that worked closely with him at Mainz, Borussia Dortmund, and PSG, feedback usually the same. Incredible tactician, supreme trainer, but tough to warm to, doesn't win hearts and minds. Clashes with staff and hierarchy publicly and privately. Anything that would open the door to expand upon that feeling. Because it sounds like that feeling is just always there with him. It doesn't seem like he's a very warm person.
Yeah.
So anything that can say, yep, that I don't like him, I don't really know why, but I don't like him, that's why I don't like him.
Yeah.
Anything that he does that can open up that door feels like it. I don't know if he lost the players at that point. I don't know if he ever really truly had the players. I think he's a guy who maybe is one of those who would probably be best as an assistant working for somebody so he doesn't have to deal with all of the things that a manager does, but he's too good at what he does to just be an assistant.
Yeah.
So he's in this situation that's awkward, and we see it a lot of times in sports where somebody is an excellent trainer, an excellent coach, but maybe not the excellent personality to handle being the head coach or the manager. And I wonder if he's one of those guys. He's too good to not have these opportunities, but he keeps almost shooting himself in the foot because of just his personality. And he loses the group. I mean, his time at Dortmund, all kinds of fighting and infighting and just back and forth. And this is where you're at. Now at PSG, a door has been opened and he's been kicked out of it. And probably in large part due to the fact that you have Mauricio Pochettino sitting out in the lobby, waving, hello, I'm here. I don't think he was lobbying for it, but he's available. And he's a big get for PSG, and he's not just a good coach. Like he would be a big get for anybody, but at PSG there is a connection there because of his time as a player.
And if you have that opening, self-perceived or otherwise, and you think that you need to pull the trigger and you can bring in someone like a Mauricio Pochettino, then if you feel like this is the time that you have to do it, the opening is there, you pull the trigger. That way you don't lose that guy that you're looking for possibly down the road to fill the vacancy that you have. It just so happened that down the road turned out to be very, very quickly. You got Pochettino, you want to jump on that so you don't lose him to others in other leagues.
Johannes with an interesting idea about would a national team kind of job be a better fit for Tuchel? You don't have to deal with the players and the authorities day in and day out. You know, the tactics, the ideology. Could he be that bridge for the German Federation to Klopp at some point? Yeah, I wonder if for somebody like him, I think personality-wise, 100%, it would be a better fit. He wouldn't burn people out as much. But he's so good on the training pitch, would you almost be losing part of that with a national team gig? And it's possible. You know, he's a unique character. Like, I don't know what the best fit is for him. But he's going to get a big job. And Arsenal feels like the one that he's going to get pushed into. It's just, I mean, Arsenal's such a mess at the moment, and they are in desperate times to be able, because they were not going to get Pochettino. So, like, while Pochettino was looming for a Manchester United with Ole and constantly back and forth with him, you know, being pushed out or sticking around, you know, Poch was probably looming for an Inter. I thought that would have been a spot if the Conte relationship had soured, maybe looming at a Real Madrid. I don't think he was really looming at Barcelona. I don't think he was looming at Arsenal. So he wasn't an effect on, okay, well, we got to make a move now because we might lose the opportunity to get him. But Tuchel being available, that changes it. That could be a really interesting development when it comes to Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. The question is just going to be, where do they look at where, you know, how they are positioned at the moment? Is Tuchel somebody that can come in and get more out of the squad immediately because they've got to deal with that relegation issue? Or do they need to go to somebody who might just keep them up at the moment? I think they have enough talent that Tuchel would be able to do enough. You know, he wouldn't come in and do it like a rescue mission.
Yeah.
They have enough talent to be able to handle that. But that's the one now, and it's already starting. Christian Falk of Bild, one of his first tweets about this was, one of the best German coaches is free for a new challenge, and Thomas Tuchel is interested in the next step, the Premier League, at Man United, at Arsenal. I don't see Manchester United doing anything on this because Ole's he's back to doing a good job. I mean, Ole's done a good job. They're in a good position. I feel like a massive reach if they did it. I think they might have considered it after the season. They do it now. Ooh, that's going to be a tough sell. Arsenal has to do it.
Yeah.
They just have to. It's tough. It's really tough. It's going to be very, very interesting. We'll keep you posted as things develop because there's going to be a lot of conversation about this. I think it dropped in Europe about 3 hours ago, a little over 3 hours ago, so it's still really just starting to bubble up. A lot of people on the Twitch pitch talking about their plans with cooking for today. Pacine says the house is already starting to smell like pork. That's awesome. That sounds like a good place to be. So this is going to be kind of a wild, all-over-the-place show. There probably won't be a whole lot of sense in it outside of the Tuchel and PSG stuff. Everything else will be scattered, so just deal with it as best as you can. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Burned with a really good point about the PSG side of this. PSG are trying to lure Lionel Messi. I think we know that. They're trying to keep Neymar. They're trying to keep Mbappe. Burns says, if they're trying to lure Messi, but Neymar would tell him that Tuchel didn't have his and Mbappe's back against those Romanian refs, that wouldn't work, and that is true. If there was any issues with Neymar and Mbappe and Tuchel, the club's going to choose the players over the manager in the situation, because you can go get a manager that should be a great fit for a Lionel Messi, should be an attractive person for Lionel Messi to want to go work for, and should be for Neymar and Mbappe too. So that factors in as well. If you want to keep those two and get Messi, which is a realistic possibility, Pochettino probably puts you in a better position to do that.
Yep. To Johannes's point about a national gig for Tuchel, because and this is me thinking out loud on this, because he's such a good tactician, and you wouldn't have a whole lot of time dealing with folks coming into camps before you'd have to come up with results. I would think that perhaps having Tuchel for a national team gig would help in that regard, because he's such a good tactician. He would be that prepared. Okay, guys, I've got you for a short amount of time. Here's what I think. Here's what we can do. You have that kind of success. That's why I think that the idea would, down the line or somewhere in his CV, it would make some sense.
See, I disagree, because being and again, we're lumping tactics, philosophy, and all kinds of different things into one, and they're not. I think he's somebody who would get more out of a team with time, with training time. I don't know how he would be in having a training session or two and then putting the guys out there. I think he gets more out of being in a club situation, but I think personality-wise, he'd be better fit for a national team job. So, there's really no way to bridge that gap. You're going to have to deal with it one way or another. I think it's probably going to be later in his career that he gets a national team opportunity. Unless, things get really weird, and let's say he doesn't want the Arsenal job. Let's say, he decides to wait it out and see what other possibilities happen. And then things get weird in Germany, and Yogi Love's role changes. Because I don't know if he'd go anywhere else.
Right.
But if Germany opened up for some reason, then maybe you're having a different conversation. But then you get back to the bad blood that Tuchel has with people and the mentality. I mean, some would be happy about him being in charge of the German national team program, but others would not be. So I don't know if that would work there either. It's a weird situation. Abby, I mean, it's a great theory. It wouldn't happen in real life with having somebody who did the press and the extra stuff. It's just in today's world for managers, they have to do it. Maybe in the past you could have sent your assistant to go do a lot of that stuff, and you didn't have to meet the media and do those things. But I don't even know if that's necessarily all it for Tuchel. It's not just the media side of it. I think that might be the least of his issues. It's more about how he deals with his bosses, how he deals with, in some cases, the people around him. I mean, one of the stories at Dortmund, there was a great piece, and Byrne shared it with me this morning. Thank you for the backgrounder on this. This was from the summer of 2017, before Tuchel was completely out at Dortmund. I mean, there's so many different things. Like, there were some real issues that he had with the hierarchy at Dortmund. I think were fair issues. He wanted to make a title push in his second year. They made 3 big sales of guys that he didn't want to sell. He wasn't happy with the guys who came in. There was a falling out, and that's accurate. But even before that, and this is one that jumps out to me, is that Tuchel had a falling out with the head scout at the club early on in his tenure. And this was a guy who had found Lewandowski, Aubameyang. They clashed over a transfer, and the head scout was banished from Dortmund's training facilities. So, I mean, and, again, Tuchel might have been correct in that, okay, I want it this way, and the scout's like, well, no, this, and they don't get along. I mean, Tuchel might not have been in the wrong there. But when you do that, and the scout is good friends with the sporting director, then you're not playing the politics correctly, and you're not handling things well. And that's where it seems like Tuchel is a brilliant trainer, but maybe not a very smooth person to deal with on a regular basis. And that's going to be an issue no matter where he goes. Is he a good enough coach to overcome that? Well, I mean, he did take PSG to the Champions League final, and they had never been there before in a situation, and they've been dying to get there. He's a good manager. There's no way around that. But is he good enough to be able to stay in a position long enough with this stuff going on? Because it'll go on wherever he goes next. Now, if he goes to Arsenal, you're going to start to have clashes. Is he the guy who can get them out of this rut that they're in, fix things, give them a little bit of an identity, and maybe it is a 2 or 3 year thing, and then you move on, and you bring in somebody who can further it. Maybe that's the play for an Arsenal here. Don't know.
A couple of folks have come in on the Twitters with Pochettino talk this morning. Antonio says, good to see Poch land on his feet after not getting the Atlanta United job.
Ay, Dios mío.
Better recruiter, Saban, Kirby, or Berhalter?
Well, who? You're completely changing the subject, but,
Well, that's Antonio is.
Well, I mean, you normally can explain that for people a little bit better. But, okay, sure, just throw things out there.
Throwing things out there.
That's what you did.
Yeah, I am throwing things out there. But the thing is that for me, it's just recruiting, looking at the question. Recruiting, you're a 5-star. Where are you going to go? Alabama. That to me doesn't mean that there's a whole lot of recruiting there. There's not a whole lot of condensing.
So Saban's a bad recruiter is what you're trying to say.
No,
is that what you're going on the record saying?
The deal. Saban closes the deal, but it's almost a default that you would go to Alabama because, right now, if you're the top,
so
if you're the top company, if you're the top company on the planet, and you sit there and Saban comes into your living room and says, "Hey, come work for my company," what are you going to say? No. I don't want to win championships. I don't want to win X, Y, or Z. If the CEO comes into your company and says, hey, I want you to come work for me, what are you going to say no if you want to have the chance to win a championship every year?
If you want to be the guy who's going to play more elsewhere, maybe you'd want to do that.
True. And
so you're saying Saban's a crap recruiter. That's what John Nelson is saying.
No, I am not saying that Saban is
You're saying he's overrated.
No, I'm saying
he's an overrated recruiter.
I'm not saying any of that.
You're saying he doesn't have to work very hard.
I would think right now, no. At the beginning of his tenure, when he started at Alabama to try to get where they are and where they've been for the last dozen years, I think that you had to work harder. But after results will show where folks want to go, and it's like, oh, I want to win championships, and so it's to that point now. It's like, okay. Here's my pedigree. You really don't have to do a whole lot of condensing. Here's my pedigree. Here's the fact. Here's all of the facts and evidence, counselor. I think you should come here.
Okay, so he's not the answer to the question for you. Then who is? You still haven't answered the question.
See, and Kirby for me would be behind Saban because
how?
As a recruiter?
How? Who's generally been having better recruiting classes?
Saban.
Okay, but it's easy for him, right? That's what you just said. How far off is Kirby in that recruiting class?
And it looks like, and Kirby wants to continue the idea of being a national brand when you're not keeping the talent within the walls that you said that you wanted to do.
That's like saying, well, this singer's a great singer, but he's not a good dancer, so he's not really a good singer. It's a recruiting question. Who is the best recruiter? Not keeper, not coacher.
But isn't that part of the recruiting process?
No, that's not part of the recruiting process.
You want to attract folks who,
John, what does the word recruit mean?
To bring folks in under the tent.
So then the rest of it doesn't matter. There's nothing about keeping. It's about recruiting. The question was, who's the best recruiter?
By process of elimination in college football, it's Saban more than Kirby.
You're crazy. You've completely disputed your own point here because you said it's easy for Saban. Last year you're the recruiting guy. So this past round of recruiting, where was Alabama ranked?
Ahead of Georgia.
By how much?
A couple
spots. Okay, a couple spots. 3. And one is the class of the college football, and they're the greatest. And the other one, they haven't won a national championship in a long time. So if there's a couple spots difference, you're saying that it's easier for Saban because, hey, we're the powerhouse, come to us. So wouldn't that mean Kirby is the better recruiter than Saban? Because he's bridging that gap. And then you haven't even gotten into Berhalter yet.
No, because to me, it's a different sport entirely. And
well, yes, it is a different sport to all of us entirely. That is accurate. But who is the better recruiter? You just got to pick one and go with it.
See, but that's the thing.
No, there's no thing. Just pick one of them. Answer the question. Antonio had a question, and you have filibustered for a long time.
Because I'm trying to think it through as I'm talking about it, but for me, it would be Saban ahead of Kirby, though.
That's craziness. Because you already said that it's easy for Saban to bring in talent. That would mean the actual recruiting skill.
They still have to walk in the door. Kirby has let more folks go to other schools in and around the
That
Southeastern
has
Conference.
nothing to do with the recruiting. You're talking about people leaving once they get there.
I'm talking about people walking in the door.
Okay, so I don't know. You're making my head hurt. So because Kirby hasn't gotten people, he's a bad recruiter. But Saban hasn't gotten those people either.
Kirby hasn't kept, because if given a choice...
Hasn't kept? Folks, what are you talking about?
I'm getting there. Let me finish my sentence.
Ay, Dios mío.
If a 5-star or whomever has the chance to go to Georgia or to Alabama...
Yeah.
And they choose to go to Alabama instead of Georgia, I would think that then that means that Kirby isn't doing a good enough job to retain that individual to keep them from going to Alabama.
No retaining. That's the part that, no. This is where you're judging it in a really weird way. There's no retaining. They're not Georgia's. They are a 5-star recruit. And like you said at the very beginning, it's very easy for Nick Saban to say, championship, 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 championship. You want to come? All right, cool. There's no recruiting skill there. Kirby having classes that are comparable to Saban, because they are, right? I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, it's 25-20 and 1-3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're really close. He's bridging the gap of championship, championship, championship. Now, to go to the next step, and I want to make this part clear, because I'm not defending Kirby as a better coach than Saban. I think he's done an amazing job recruiting, which means as a coach, he's probably doing a worse job because he's bringing in the talent and he's not really changing the results. Greg Berhalter to bring into the mix, in terms of who he is recruiting, he's not in the conversation with either one yet because you haven't gotten to a point to be able to close the deal.
Yeah.
But if he gets Yunus Musa, then we're having a completely different conversation. If he gets any of these other guys, Johnny from Brazil, which isn't as much of a competition, but that's still a good get. If you get Efrain Alvarez, if there's players out there, if he gets them locked in, then we're having a different conversation. I don't think he's gotten to that point yet. So I'm ranking Kirby as a better recruiter because he has less to work with initially. Saban is next because he has it easy, but yes, he's bringing in the talent. Berhalter needs more information to rank. Yeah,
and that's where I had Berhalter was third because of the subset of information isn't a whole lot to work with yet. Like the idea of bringing in Yunus Musa, like the idea of bringing in Johnny, but can you keep them over time? And right now, just the amount of time that we have to look at Berhalter as a recruiter, it's not.
I don't understand why the can you keep them part has anything to do with recruiting. Recruiting is bring somebody in. He hasn't locked them in because they haven't signed their national letter of intent yet. Right. Because you can come in and play in a friendly and they're not locked. So that's why he doesn't even, in my opinion, Berhalter's not even part of the conversation yet. Yeah. Because he hasn't been able to lock anybody yet. Because you can only do that through competitive matches. Now, he'll be able to do that in June with CONCACAF League semifinals, or the CONCACAF Nations League semifinals, and then the Gold Cup. And that's where we'll be able to see. If he gets Musa in for that, if he gets some of these other guys that are question marks and they commit, then we're having a different conversation. If he gets Yunus Musa, then yeah, I might be willing to put Greg Berhalter as a better recruiter than any of the college football recruiters. Because Yunus Musa, for guys his age in top 5 European leagues, he's played more minutes than all of them but one. And you've got a lot to recruit against if you're Greg Berhalter. If you pull that one off, cool, I'm in. I'll put him over Kirby and Saban any day.
And I agree. I completely agree with you on Kirby and coaching, but let me posit why I would have Saban ahead of Kirby. Yes, it's easier to bring in all those 5 stars, but to convince them to still come, knowing that they may not be playing as much as they had in high school, and to still bring all of this talent there, regardless of the amount of time that they would play, and to keep them there instead of having them go to the opposition, going to an Ohio State, going to a Georgia, keeping all those 5 stars. And like I'm putting the coaching thing, I agree with you. The coaching thing is off to the side.
Yeah,
but
it's not recruiting. It's not recruiting. It has nothing to do with recruiting. I mean, it does in terms of it's one of your things you can recruit with, but you can be a great coach and a bad recruiter. You can be a great recruiter and a bad coach.
Right. But my notion of having Saban ahead of Kirby is the idea of keeping them away from Ohio State, keeping them away from Georgia, even if they're going to be playing less, and they would be regarded as a starter at X school. If you go to Alabama, then yes, you're going to be here, but you're going to be a part of championships, even though you won't be playing as much, and your numbers won't be as great, and you'll get drafted into the NFL, all those shiny things.
Yeah, but is it better than a couple of spots in a national ranking? Because you have a big advantage because you have a program that has had more success. I don't think being able to keep getting good guys is as hard as being able to get good guys when you haven't been winning as much. I mean, it's not like Georgia's losing a whole bunch of games, but are they in a different place with Kirby than they were before? Not really.
Mm-mm.
And he's gotten better talent, I think, than they were getting before. So that says all you need to say about his how things have been going on the coaching side. So
correct.
That's why I'll put him there as a recruiter, because he is among the best with your teams that are winning big championships, and he's not. So I'll give him credit as a recruiter, but I will knock that against him as a coach. Yep. And Berhalter, we'll see. I mean, look, this is the thing, though, with more guys that are eligible to play for more national teams. Like, recruiting is an element of a national team program now. It has to be. You have to look at it like a college football coach. Greg Berhalter should be going to talk to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might need some lessons from some of these college football coaches in how to go into the living room and give the right speech.
Yep.
It's important. So we'll see. Thomas Jewin is hanging out in the Twitch pitch. What's up, Thomas? First time chatter. Very nice.
Nice.
You walked into a weird conversation, Thomas, so you might leave. I'm sorry. I apologize. No, it's just it's recruiting will be a big element to it. Thomas Tuchel, if he ended up getting a national team job, be curious to see how he would be as a recruiter. Maybe he just has fights with higher-ups and maybe not so much recruiting talent. That won't be as big of a job at Germany. It's a big part of the U.S. job. It's a big part of some jobs. And it needs to be a big part of Greg Berhalter's job. And if he's not good enough doing it, man, he needs to get somebody to do it. Get a former player who can go into those living rooms and talk to the parents and get that kid to commit to the U.S. and play in a Gold Cup or play in a World Cup qualifier.
Edmund Gibson is in, and he says, so torn. Despise PSG, but a fan of Pochettino. May have to start watching PSG matches to see how he does. Tuchel will definitely land something soon.
Yeah, Tuchel won't be out of a job for very long. I don't see it. I think he will. I really think Arsenal's what's going to happen here. The question is, a lot of the rumor and speculation was, and I've said it, and I still feel this way, if Manchester United does not win a trophy this year, I'll throw the League Cup into it. They're in the semifinal now. They play Manchester City in the semi, but I'll throw them in. If they don't win a trophy, I don't think Ole is back. Now, I think maybe that mentality was easier when you knew Tuchel was out of contract in the summer. Now he's available. I don't think they can make a move on Ole now. That would just look really, really bad.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal's going to jump on it. I think they're going to have to. If Arteta drops points to the teams around him in the relegation fight, and Big Sam said they're in the relegation fight, so they're in the relegation fight. Big Sam knows relegation fights.
Yeah, he does.
Arsenal's in the relegation fight, according to Big Sam. If they drop points to the teams around them, Arsenal's got to move on from Arteta. He's at that kind of point now. And if they do that, then they got to go get Tuchel. And that's the one. You know, it's the only big logical move. I guess Allegri would still be in that mix. I'd rather go get Tuchel, even with the weirdness around him. I would.
Nathan Pugh with a couple of different topics this morning, but the one attached to Thomas Tuchel, he says, Joyeux Noël et bonne année, Thomas Tuchel. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I was waiting for a translation from you.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping that I was close to even saying it correctly.
Sounded good to me.
Cupper says, Poach to PSG. Tuchel must be a bad guy.
Bad guy.
They keep him to the end of the season.
Bad guy, and he said bad things in an interview that maybe were not authorized for public consumption, but ended up becoming public, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's not good. It's not good for PSG at this situation. But he will get opportunities in the Premier League, and maybe for him, if he knew he was out in the summer, maybe it just accelerates the process for him. I mean, Arsenal's not a bad place to land. You come in and you get the bump of being the new manager and you fix what has been bad, you're going to buy yourself a good bit of time. So he could really come in and get them on the right foot. Now, I guess one question would be, because in that Dortmund article from 2017, it sounded like maybe there wasn't the warmest of relationships with one Aubameyang during his time at Dortmund. Would that be an issue? I don't know if it was bad. It just didn't sound like it was great. So that's an interesting element to this. But I think Arsenal's going to get forced into a move. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, so here's your updated odds.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Yeah,
here's your updated odds as of about an hour ago.
Okay.
Max Allegri's still the favorite at 13-5, which is a little under 3-1.
All right.
Brendan Rodgers 3-1. Thomas Tuchel now up to 3-1.
He's up to 3-1. Needed to jump on it faster.
Yep. Not
touching it 3-1. That's not good enough for me. Not giving up
Vieira
my
and
peppermint bark.
Simeone and Rafa Benitez are now 10-1.
Those are all stupid.
Eddie Howe and Ralph Hasenhüttl are 11-1. Freddie Ljungberg is at 16. Saul Campbell and Steven Gerrard are 17. Roberto Martinez is at 20-1. Henry is at 22. And then you get into Marco Rose, Sadi, Nagelsmann, Wenger, and Allardyce.
Yes, Big Sam to Arsenal. Yeah,
he knows. I could just hop from one relegation fighter to another.
Oh, he would, but
absolutely
no, that's not happening.
He sent his CV to the Emirates already.
I'm sure he has. AS in Spain has a headline: Mbappe moved to Real Madrid in doubt after Tuchel sacking. I think it was already in doubt, but anyway, get those clicks. PSG have shockingly sacked German coach Thomas Tuchel as the head coach of the Ligue 1 club. The relationship between the club and manager had become strained in recent times, with both sides clashing frequently over the transfer policy internally. They say Pochettino's the favorite to take over at PSG. Mbappe was a player who had a turbulent relationship with the German coach, according to AS. Tuchel's dismissal has now become a new obstacle in Madrid's pursuit to sign Mbappe next summer. Now everything is slightly more complicated. They say that not just it affects Mbappe moving to Madrid, it could also affect Zidane's future successor, which has now, I guess, come into the mix again. Pochettino was Florentino Perez's ideal successor to follow Zidane and make the transition between Zidane and Raul, which I guess is Florentino Perez's big plan. Well, he might have to skip the transition, I guess. Okay, that's a strange way to put it. I don't think Pochettino's a transition guy in anybody's case, but whatever. It is suggested that firing Tuchel could be a tactic from Leonardo, the sporting director at PSG, and the owners of PSG to keep Mbappe, because they talk about the incidents last year. Forward were substituted before the final whistle in a couple of games, showed his displeasure with that. Tuchel said, I am the coach. This is not tennis or an individual sport. This is football. Seemed like maybe things were okay with their run to the Champions League, et cetera, et cetera. AS feels like the relationship with Mbappe was one of the biggest reasons. I don't think it was the reason, but yeah, it probably factored in. Tuchel had a lot of things going against him, it seemed like, and the interview was probably the last straw for all of them.
Yeah. So, yes, all of these things were a reason, and the interview was the last reason, and that gave him a reason, and so that's why he's now looking for work.
Yeah. He'll find a spot. He'll be just fine. Man, I really, really will be paying attention to what Arsenal does now, because that's the one. Thomas Tuchel leaving PSG, highest average points per game in the history of the competition in Liga, 2.37 points per game, 75.6% win percentage. That is the highest percentage in history. So it's not like Tuchel was a bum at PSG. Yeah. He is the best that Liga has ever seen, and now he's gone. And we will see how Pochettino ends up comparing to that, because look, PSG's not leading in France right now. They should win France. They should win Liga. But Pochettino doesn't have a trophy. Now, the French league, he should win. Cups in France, he should win some of those. The trophy, the Champions League, well, he's been to the final. Tuchel has too. Can he get over the hump? He's going to have guys. I mean, he's going to have Neymar. He's going to have Mbappe, at least this season. This is a type of talent. I don't know. Did Spurs have that level of talent, those types of individuals? You could argue that they did. You could argue that they didn't. But the potential of Messi is what makes this such an interesting spot. And I don't really remember. I'm sure there's been conversations about Pochettino and Messi. I mean, they're from the same part of Argentina, first off. They both have connections to Newell's Old Boys. So is there a relationship? Is there no relationship? I'm sure they've met. I'm sure they know one another. But would Pochettino going to PSG increase their chances of getting Lionel Messi? Because, oh yeah, remember, it's December 24th. January 1st, Messi can sign a pre-contract for where he wants to go next. Now, he has said, at least through people, or people have said that he has said, that he's going to wait to see how the presidential election at Barcelona turns out. That's January 24th. That'll leave like a week in January to make a decision. You don't think that somebody is going to at least be talking on Messi's behalf to a PSG, to a Manchester City, and having things in place? So if the presidential election doesn't go the way that Messi wants or would like, or he doesn't like what the person says, he's ready to go? Yeah, I think he's going to have his options on the table. I don't think he signs anywhere. I do think he has a strong enough feeling for Barcelona that he will not sign anything until after the election. But if he doesn't like how that turns out, I think he'll have something in place immediately.
Yeah, just going back and trying to see if Pochettino had discussed anything about being with Messi. He did in a Forbes article back in March, and it was looking forward to the day where they could both go back to Newell's and work together.
Right.
Radio de Plata in Argentina, Pochettino said, I want to return to Newell's with Messi.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah. That's nothing. Because that's not realistic. Like, that's not happening, first off. That's fantasy land. That's how you don't answer the question.
Yeah.
Mauricio Pochettino is a very smart guy, very savvy guy. How do you answer the question without answering the question? Yeah, we'd love to go back to Newell's and work together. That's not Newell's did a GoFundMe for a transfer budget a couple years ago. Like literally. Okay? So that's a great fairy tale.
Yeah.
But that's not a realistic answer, and he knows that.
So that way you can sit there and put something out there as a quote and not have it be interwoven into the current framework of what's going on in soccer.
You can say something that's very nice that doesn't actually mean anything.
Right.
That's the point. Everybody is on Pochettino, and this is what's going to happen. There's just no question about that, really, for what's next for PSG. Fabrizio Romano has said it's just a matter of time with paperwork. He hasn't given the full "here we go," but it's coming. BBC has said that he's the main contender. That part, I think, is the easy part. It's where does Tuchel land next, and how does the musical chairs end up? Yeah. You know, Allegri has started to come out and say some different things, like, hey, remember me, I'm still here. So you've got Allegri, now you've got Tuchel out there. If Pochettino's not, those are going to be the two guys that get linked to everything going forward. Everything. It's going to be interesting.
And Brendan Rodgers will still be linked to leaving Leicester and going to Arsenal until there's a new coach.
Why are we talking about Brendan Rodgers?
Well, because he was also at 3-1. That was all. He was just the third name on the list in the odds.
That's on them.
Yep.
Like, there's no. Who? Okay, then I'll put this to you. Who would you hire? Thomas Tuchel, Max Allegri, or Brendan Rodgers?
Thomas Tuchel.
Okay, you could argue Allegri, but I'm not arguing for Rodgers.
Yeah. No.
In that conversation, I'm not paying Leicester to get him out of his contract when I got two guys who are out of jobs right now.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's an easy one. It's not even, that's like, am I going to go have a great steak? Am I going to go have, a filet mignon? Or am I going to go to Hardee's? No offense, Hardee's. Great breakfast. But if I can have a world-class steak, I'm going to go have a world-class steak.
Yes. Which reminds me, what are you gonna do for Christmas meals?
No real idea yet. I think we're going to do something with ham as the main protein, and stuff around it. I'm still working on that. I'm still figuring that out. I did get one of my favorites though, and it's super simple. Dutch apple pie.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I like the kind of like falling apart, messy apple pie.
With or without vanilla ice cream?
Oh, with vanilla ice cream. That's a definite. You get the pie, you get it just a little bit warm, you put some ice cream on top. It's outstanding stuff. And the Dutch apple pie is the best for it. I did shade Hardee's, Ricky Ricardo. I felt a little bad about it. I was trying to think of something that was in direct opposite to a great steak or a filet mignon. So, sorry, Hardee's. There's not a lot of Hardee's around anymore. One, and I never liked their normal food. The breakfast is great.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I don't like their burgers. Their burgers would be probably at the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah. The boss is looking probably at first meal on Christmas will be Waffle House.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then trying to figure out what to do for Christmas dinner. But tonight it looks like it's going to be steaks that will be cooked, and then
steaks that will be cooked. Well, that's good. They're not raw.
No, actually, no. Not a fan of the raw steak.
You're not doing the cooking, right?
No.
Thank you. That would be bad. That would be very, very bad. No, nobody wants that.
No, steaks, potatoes.
Oh, we got an NWSL trade, according to Ileana Romero out of Orlando. Emily Sonnet going from Orlando to the Washington Spirit. Sonnet never played for Orlando thanks to the pandemic. Sonnet is also from the Metro Atlanta area. So Emily Sonnet headed to Washington as NWSL teams start to make their moves.
But yeah, so definitely cooking things. And hey, you came in with a breaking news sound, and I was in mid thought.
Okay, keep going.
I am trusting others to cook the steaks this evening, and the other things that will go around it. I think steak and potatoes is going to be part of it. But yeah, Waffle House is going to be tomorrow.
How do you like your potatoes in that scenario?
Depends. I can go either baked with a lot of stuff on top, bacon bits, sour cream, butter, or I can go with the double baked potatoes that some folks do.
Baked or the double baked. Wow, yeah, that's big. That's a big time. Okay,
I know that's a big stretch.
That's crazy.
I know. Just call me wacky, but that's usually the two options there. Sometimes it's fries, but most of the time it's a baked potato.
Salt on the baked potatoes?
No.
No salt, just plain potato?
No, but on the baked potato, no. Sour cream and butter and bacon bits usually.
Okay. All right.
No, I don't add additional salt. No.
I'm just asking questions from the Twitch pitch.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Oh, man. Copa Libertadores last night. Boca
okay.
goes
So
through.
Explain to me how Defensa isn't in the playoffs yet.
No. Now you're mixing it up. They're not in Libertadores next year yet. That's a whole different one. Let's push that to the side for a second. Okay. The Libertadores currently going on. Last quarterfinal, second leg. Boca Juniors goes through over Racing. Racing was garbage, and I don't understand what was going on with their approach at all. They were very defensive. It was very bad. So they gave up a goal, they gave up a penalty, they get knocked out 2-1 on aggregate. Now we wait and see what happens with Sebastian Becasese, because the sporting director that hired him has left Racing. Is he going to stick around, or is he going to go, or is he going to get fired and they're going to move on because Argentine soccer is crazy? Don't know. Not sure. And he'll be a manager to keep an eye on. He's a younger version of what we're seeing here with Gabriel Heinze, with that kind of manager who has Bielsa, Guardiola, that school of thought. Becasese was an assistant for Jorge Sampaoli for a long period of time, which, again, comes from the Bielsa kind of mentality. So Becasese will be somebody to keep an eye on if he leaves Racing. Boca goes through into the semifinals now. They'll play Santos. River will play Palmeiras. You got Argentine-Brazilian semifinals in the Libertadores, which is always madness. And you could have an all-Brazilian final in Rio, which would be madness. Or you could have a Boca River El Super Clasico, Super Duper Clasico, Electric Boogaloo in Rio.
Ooh.
Just be one game. It would be different than it was last time they faced off. That was the last two-leg final. So either one's nuts. Or you could have a split, and you could have an Argentine-Brazilian final in Rio with no fans, we think, but who knows by the time we get there. That's going to be in late January. So those semifinals are coming up. Boca and River do play in the current competition in Argentina right now, the Copa Diego Armando Maradona. They play on January 2nd. That has been set. That round was set, but they were waiting to see what day they would play that game based off everything that could be happening with Libertadores. So now it is confirmed in Argentina that January 2nd will be the Super Clasico. It'll be, let me do the math, I think it'll be a 6 o'clock game here with the time zone change. So we'll be talking a lot about that as we get closer to it, because that'll be a huge game, and it could be a precursor to a Copa Libertadores final between those two. Now, in all the weirdness yesterday, you had a game with Defensa y Justicia and Estudiantes that was a makeup game from a competition that has been canceled, the Copa de la Superliga. The league isn't even called the Superliga anymore. Welcome to Argentina. Daft is a word that's been going around about Argentine league structures. It would apply here. So when the last league ended right before the pandemic, the next competition that was starting the next weekend was the Copa de la Superliga. It was a league cup, like a mini league, kind of like what they've done with the Diego Armando Maradona Cup. They played one round of it that first weekend after MLS shut down. They did play games in Argentina, and it was like it was in Mexico, where it was evolving over the weekend. I think you had fans at games on Friday night. Then they had no fans on Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember where things fell in Argentina, but they abandoned the competition after that, and they canceled it. Defensa didn't play because they had a Libertadores game scheduled for like the Tuesday afterwards, so they canceled that game. They were going to make it up later in the competition. Well, then the competition got canceled. But that first round of games got factored in for the year's coefficient or whatever to see who would qualify for Libertadores spots. So Argentina comes back and they're like, well, yeah, that competition you guys were going to play in, you didn't have to make up that game because the competition got canceled, but now we need you to make up the game because it will affect who goes to the Libertadores next year. So they played a game in a dead competition yesterday, and Defensa had to win by 4 to flip the goal differential to get an automatic Libertadores qualifying spot. They won 2-1. They had a 2-0 lead. They gave up a goal late. They were never going to get it to 4. So Vélez, largely due to Gabriel Heinze's time at Vélez in the last season, is now an automatic Libertadores qualifier for 2021. Defensa could still get in because now they're the next in line if what all has to happen. There's different teams that can qualify directly that Defensa would then take the next spot. I think if River or Boca win the Libertadores, then they would get an automatic spot, and Defensa would move into their qualification spot. If Defensa or Vélez now, because they're still alive in the Sudamericana, if either one of them win the Sudamericana currently, they get a Libertadores spot for next year. So that would get you in. And I think there's one other weird one where Argentinos factors into it, and they could qualify directly. And anyway, madness. So Defensa is next in line, basically, is where it stands.
River Racing or Boca win the 2020 Libertadores. River, Boca, or Argentinos win the current domestic.
That was before yesterday. Racing can't win the current Libertadores anymore because they're eliminated. Okay. they're not playing anymore. They can't win it. That would be amazing if they could somehow get back from being eliminated.
And then the current domestic winner of the Copa Diego Maradona.
Yeah, that was it. If one of a couple different teams win that, then they would automatically go.
And then Vélez or Defensa winning the Sudamericana.
Yeah. So it's super complicated, which is no surprise because it revolves around Argentine soccer because it's very complicated. It's just what happens. You need to thank somebody who is not super complicated, although your thanking of them at times becomes a little complicated. And we'll see how you do this morning in thanking and telling everybody about Steve Apolinsky.
Yep. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, a couple different ways that you can get in touch with Apolinsky & Associates if you wish to have that kind of a conversation. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can get a free consultation by giving them a call, 404-377-9191, or you can go on the World Wide Web. Couple different ways that you can do it, large device or small. And when you go into the taskbar and you type in aa-legal.com, if you hit enter, you hit return, you hit the arrow key, whatever advances it to that homepage, you'll see the homepage for Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. A pop-up window will pop up, lower right-hand corner, because that's what pop-up windows do. Magically, they pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. You can have a conversation and have your questions answered that way. So it's pop-up window on the web. Phone call to the office, shooting Steve an email directly, 3 different ways that you can do it. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place that you need to go, and that is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
Slowed down that time.
Well, I was like I said, I was trying to hit that baseline in that transition. So that stands as the one that I'm shooting for. Tafka says that his wife made him turn us off in favor of Christmas music as they drive to the in-laws.
That's fair enough. There's no problem with that. Mrs. Tafka needs to have control of the radio. That's for sure.
Yep. So that's one of our driving updates this morning.
Let's see.
But
hold on. The judges have to react to your performance. True. Don't you know this by now?
Yes, I do.
J-Dub, 7. Not bad. Although your average for speed is really all over the place. That is very true. Mm-hmm. Domer feeling evil with a 6.66.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Chiefs coach Steve, yesterday's East German judge awards John a 7. AA 5 Stripes goes 8.9.
Wow.
Thomas Jewin, first time in, 9.29.
Was a poet didn't know it. You said for Thomas Jewin, first time in.
7.5.3. It's like falling dramatically now. Ropes with a 7.2. Chiefs coach Steve, not yesterday's East German judge, 8.2. You got bonus points for the pointing.
I always point, though.
Yeah. Byrne gave you bonus points for the facial expressions.
So emoting gives larger... higher ratings.
Some judges like that. Not all. Some. Ricky Ricardo, 7.5. Abby with a 9. The hand gestures were very good.
Strong. Thank you.
Chris Ashley, 7.9. Ragamuffin, 7. Burned, 8.5. Real good job looking at the camera. All right. That's a pretty good performance.
Yeah, it is. I think that's one of the higher aggregates that I've had the entire time.
It is. It is... the holiday spirit, John. Maybe people are being very forgiving.
That's why I figured this was going, is that everybody was in the holiday spirit.
No, maybe a little bit. Maybe everybody's in a good mood. Maybe.
Okay.
Possibly.
Just thinking. Yeah.
All right, what else is on your mind?
Well, let me go through the Twitters and let you see what else is going on here.
Okay.
Nathan Pugh had a couple of other things this morning.
Okay.
And he said that he was able to find another angle of the South American tangle between Cavani and Mina and posted a quick video of Mankind giving the mandible claw to Big Boss Man.
It did look a little bit like that. I loved Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's comment on this because it's funny and also kind of horrible. So Carlo Ancelotti says he didn't see it. I don't know how he didn't see it, but okay. He didn't speak about it with Mina. Solskjaer dismissed it. Quote, nothing in it. Two South Americans that have had a few battles before. They met in Copa America qualifiers, which they don't have Copa America qualifiers, but anyway. So this was a proper game of football. It didn't look good.
Mm-mm.
It didn't look good. Could Mina have been adding a little bit? The description was Cavani appeared to pinch Yerry Mina in the throat as he grabbed him and then pushed him to the ground. No VAR. Carlo was being diplomatic, Ropes. I totally agree. No VAR, so nothing to see here, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Cavani goes and scores the winner.
Yeah.
Another
one after that.
It's a bad look. It is a bad look. Not going to lie. Solskjaer needs to get his information straight before he comments on it because that's not good either. And probably should just leave all that out of it. He should have said, I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
2 weeks' time, semifinal, Manchester United, Manchester City in the Gummy Bear Cup.
Eesh. Nathan also sends in the breaking news sounder that Everton still haven't won a trophy since 1995.
Nathan's a little biased. Little biased against the
other
blue
end
side
of
of town. Yeah, a little bit.
Looking over the tree line at the blue team.
That's just kind of mean.
Yeah. And what else is on my mind? Oh yeah, Big Sam saying that. What was the Big Sam conversation with about Arsenal?
Big Sam put them into the
relegation
fight. I mean that's what Big Sam does, right? You know, he's gonna He's going to try to drag everybody down with him and make us all despise everything about the game because Big Sam hates joy. He was asked if Arsenal, who are 15th with 14 points after making their worst start to a season since 1974-75, if Arsenal were among West Brom's rivals to avoid the drop. Allardyce said, if they're in the bottom 8 at the moment, yes, absolutely. And then, of course, Big Sam turned it around to his favorite subject, Big Sam,
yes.
and said, I know what it takes. I hope I can convince the players to respond to what I say on what it takes to get out of it. I hope we can push at Arsenal when they play us and try to beat them or anybody in the bottom 8. Your players probably not all that thrilled these days, Big Sam, just saying.
That game on January 2nd.
Yippee. Oh, that will be just wonderful viewing of everything that is great in the sport and in life itself. It'll just
I can't
be
wait to see what the total is on that one and still bet the under.
I want to not know anything about that game. I will not watch it. I will not have anything to do with it. Badger with a good question for people who don't know. What exactly did Big Sam do to get fired as England's manager without managing a match? I think he managed one. He had one, and I want to make sure that I get this right because I don't remember all of the details 100%. So he was sacked after a sting operation by the Daily Telegraph in which undercover reporters posed as businessmen. And the end product of the sting operation ran under the headline, England Manager for Sale. Yeah. What did he say exactly? So FA statement said his conduct was inappropriate. Southgate took over on a temporary charge. That became permanent. He offered advice in this sting operation on how to get around rules on player transfers. He is also alleged to have used his role to negotiate a deal worth £400,000 to represent a Far East firm. Yeah, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. He had a meeting with undercover reporters posing as businessmen. This was before his first training session. The piece came out after. Recorded on camera. Alleged that Allardyce said, I mean, it's on camera, so I don't know if it's alleged, not a problem to bypass rules on third-party player ownership, and claimed he knew of agents who were, quote, doing it all the time. Did the deal for £400,000 to represent a company to Far East investors and be a keynote speaker at events. He made fun of Roy Hodgson's manner of speaking. He criticized Gary Neville, who was one of Hodgson's assistants in this. Yeah, it was really bad. He tried to talk his way out of it, but not so much. Didn't work. So yeah, Big Sam didn't really pull that one off very smoothly. Not good, Big Sam.
This weekend, by the way.
What game? Hold on. What game did he manage? He managed a friendly, I think. Because that sting thing happened before he took the training session. There's only a couple training sessions, and then everything came out after the game. I think it was a friendly. I don't think it was a Euro qualifier or a World Cup qualifier or anything.
Yeah, no, I thought it was.
Believe it was a friendly.
Yeah. England over Slovakia in the first of their 2018 World Cup qualifiers back in 2016.
And how'd that one go?
1-0, Adam Lallana.
Well, there you go. Sounds like a Big Sam special.
Yeah.
England got the better situation there, by the way. Southgate falling into that job instead of Sam Allardyce. Sam Allardyce isn't taking them where Southgate took them in the World Cup in 2018. So the FA got lucky, and they should be thanking the sting operation every day.
Thank you, reporters.
Yes. Thank you, undercover folks.
Liverpool, by the way, is playing West Brom this weekend. Here's your numbers.
Yeah.
Because I just want to see how big the margin was. Liverpool is in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, a minus 715 against West Brom.
Wow.
The draw is a plus 820. And I'll let you finish taking your sip of Red Bull before I ask you.
No, it's going to be a lot. I don't care.
But how much of a lot do you think?
Plus 2,000.
Very good. Plus 1960 in the composite.
I got these people figured out. I know what they're up to. I'm not touching it at all.
No. But it is so wide-ranging. You can get it up to you can get it anywhere from plus 1,500 to plus 2,200. And that's why the numbers are so... Yeah. And Liverpool can be found north of minus 900 in some places and minus 800 in some places as well.
Nothing to do with any of that.
Nope. But no, I did have a couple of questions. One was based on this morning and one that I've kind of held for the last couple of days.
Okay, 1 second, and we'll get into that. Is this real? So I did see a Budweiser sponsored tweet giving Lionel Messi his props for his record-setting goal, the most goals for any single club. This is on Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. It looks legit. They made 644 custom Lionel Messi bottles to be sent to the 160 goalkeepers that Messi scored against, and each bottle with the number of the goal that was scored against that goalkeeper. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of a fun little thing. I don't know if all the goalkeepers will want those, and somebody's probably getting a few.
Who gets the most bottles? Do we know?
I'm not sure. There's a few who probably racked up quite a few bottles there. So that's what I was looking for. I don't know if anybody's done the math on who he has scored the most against. No, I don't see it, so I'm not sure. There's got to be some who are getting like 15 or 20 or maybe even more.
Yeah, because when...
Tomer's yelling Kepa already in the Twitch pitch. Oh, man. Kepa might need a few bottles.
Yes. And because I remember that, like, when Hank Aaron was and Barry Bonds were chasing after home run records, they would list who had the most home runs per pitcher, and that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, it happened. Gianluigi Buffon has posted a picture. I think it was on Facebook. He added Budweiser, and he said, "Thanks for the beers. I'll take it as a compliment. We have great battles over the years. Congratulations on breaking the 644 record, Leo Messi. It really is an unbelievable achievement. Cheers." And, I mean, it was sent in a nice box, and he got, at least he's showing number 513 and 514. So that's kind of cool. Props to Budweiser for that. I like it.
Now, my question is, do you put those bottles on a shelf, or do you actually crack them open and drink them?
I don't think you're drinking them. I don't want bottles that Budweiser sent me that who knows what. I mean, no, I'm not touching it. Bud's okay. I'm not a fan, but it's okay. But no, I'm not doing it. Okay. Looks like Diego Alves is leading the pack with 21, and Iker Casillas is next with 17.
Okay.
So nobody's getting the full 24 pack.
No, but close.
That's pretty cool. I like that, though. That's a pretty cool way to do this, and it's cool to see Buffon, and I'm sure others will have a good laugh at it. Maybe Diego Alves won't with getting 21 of them.
It's like, because you're getting this big box and it clanks, and it's like, what the hell is this? And it turns, crap, and you're reminded that you gave up 21 goals.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's to Messi, but yeah, he's going to be walking around like Christy Mewis with a whole gang of bottles of beer. Man. Craziness. Okay, you are hinting at a signature segment, and here you go. All your ratings are going to go down now. It was Bud Heavy, J-Dub. It was not Bud Light.
Yes, the original. I feel like Nick during the intro to soccer over there.
He doesn't do those things.
Or maybe it's on Mondays with Reddit when he does this.
Yeah, kind of. What time is it, John?
Hey, I saw this. Of course, that's also the working title. So in 2021, if you guys come up with a title for this segment where I have questions, and it's better than, hey, I saw this, or hey, I thought of this.
John has questions. John dances like a gopher, according to Chiefs coach Steve as well. Caddyshack reference. Good.
Well, if it's that, then it's one of these. You know, it's that Chiefs coach Steve. If it's the gopher, then it's like that.
Doing.
So I actually have two this morning.
Oh boy. Okay.
Well, and one's a carryover from the last couple of days.
Okay.
But which one do you want first? The topical one or the one that's been held?
It's your segment.
Okay, so then let's do topical first.
Okay.
Since we're dealing with Christmas,
mm-hmm.
and folks are having to turn us off to listen to Christmas music, for those who listen later and for those who are listening now, it's a split question. Do you remember the first soccer gift you ever got, and what's the best soccer gift you ever got?
I don't remember the first soccer gift I ever got for Christmas. I'm not sure what that would have been. Probably, well, I mean, it could have been cleats. But I think I would have got those before like the season started, so probably not. So I don't remember. Yeah, I'm not sure what the first one was. The best one, I think, was the 1990 U.S. Men's National Team warm-up outfit, the warm-up suit that they had that I got for Christmas that year. Because it was like the classic like 90s warm-up, like super swishy kind of thing.
Yeah. The velour-sounding one when you move
Not velour, no. It was like straight-up plastic. Like it was the really old ones that were just, totally very loud when you would walk. But it was a pretty cool-looking warm-up, and not many people had it. I think we got it at Eurosport, probably ordered it through the catalog. So that's the one that I always remember because it was super cool.
Okay. So that is the question to the floor for the remainder of the show today. Okay. What's the best soccer Christmas gift you ever got? And if you remember your first one, what was it?
Okay.
So now the one that I've held for the last couple of days. In Nisa, they have announced a new franchise, and it is in Rochester, New York.
All right.
The name of the team is Flower City Union.
Okay.
And they're going to play in Rochester in 2021. And the article in Front Row Soccer explains it this way. Going against the grain of many recent new professional soccer teams' penchant of using FC, SC United, or even Athletic, the Flower City Union owners and staff listen to fans and even media in trying to find the right name for the team. Rochester is nicknamed the Flower City. It has a huge lilac festival in late spring every year. And so Dr. Todd Harrison, an associate professor and chair of the St. John Fisher College's Sport Management Department, who's developed a strategic partnership with the team owners, says there are lots of club names across time that have centered on Rochester. And so they came up with Flower City Union for the name of the new franchise in Nisa that's going to start playing next season. So my question to the floor is, do you, as a fan or a follower of the sport, like it when you see names like this? Are you more of a traditionalist, where it's FC, SC, Union, or Athletic? Or like in the old days of the North American Soccer League, where it was the Rochester Raging Rhinos, the Houston Hurricane, the Le Manique du Montréal, those kinds of things. Where do you stand when it comes to your nicknames? Do you like what they did in Rochester? Is that too far off to the side for you? Where do you stand when it comes to naming clubs?
I would have had no idea where this club would have been based.
Yep.
First off, which if that matters, that matters. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I can imagine that the local sports media hates it. I can assume that they will not really cover it at first because of that. That's not good. My feeling on these, I could care less about FC, SC, any of that stuff. I don't care. That doesn't make it better for me. It's a tag that you don't really use anyway. I mean, are you calling it Arsenal FC? Are you calling them Arsenal FC when you talk about Arsenal? No, you're talking about Arsenal, right? So, like, the FC, the SC, I don't care. United, it works for Atlanta. It works for some. Can it feel like it's trying to sound like something? Yeah. Like I've said many times here, talking to people who are not soccer fans, they love the Atlanta United name because it sounds like a soccer team to them. It's an accepted soccer team name. Okay. It doesn't bother me. It's what you do with it. This is one where you're going to have to do a lot, I feel like. Yeah. A whole lot to brand it and make it work. If you do, great. It'll be unique. It'll be different. It won't sound like anything else. But, man, you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And you've got to get all of that right. I think you increase the degree of difficulty going down this road. I don't know. And so they're going to come out in their statement and be anti-FC, SC, or United or Athletic, but they have City in there. So that part's a little silly to me. That's very silly. And I'm just waiting for people to shorten it and call them FC Union.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of Rochester team names that have been out there either. Like, I don't know where that comment came from. There's been the Rochester Raging Rhinos, and they dropped Raging, and they were just the Rhinos. The Western New York Flash in the
Lancers.
NWSL. You had the Lancers back before that. That's about it. I think there's an indoor team possibly. But you had the Western New York Flash, which were not called Rochester, which were in Rochester. So I don't know. I think you probably could have called it Rochester something if you had wanted to, and it would have been fine. The name only works if they sell it properly to fans, to the media, and to the whole community at large. This one feels like they've got a lot of selling to do, a whole lot, and I don't know if it'll work. I don't know.
My gut tells me that in your TV coverage, that when you have the local affiliates doing highlights, they will jump to calling it FC Union because it takes that much less time to sit there. Flower City Union tonight going up against, so-and-so.
Flower City
Union
instead of FC. It's two syllables.
Yeah.
The Union's going to stay in the same room. I don't think. They're not going to call it FCU, I don't think.
Somebody might get cute and go FCU after establishing FC Union just for the sake of calling a highlight package.
Yeah.
I could easily see them. Yeah, tonight FC Union. And that way you're getting into the highlights, and that gets you into it.
It's two syllables, John.
And then FCU, and literally at the end of your highlights, and FCU loses, 2-1 or whatever. I could definitely see FC Union and FCU being used long before FC Union, though. Flower City Union, sorry.
I don't know. I just wonder if people are going to take it seriously because I think you have this issue with this stuff. It was an issue for the Atlanta Silverbacks, and because I heard people say this. In that one, it sounded like an arena football team name.
Yeah.
Because, look, people don't want to use, if you're naming a team with typical American conventions, you don't want to call it the Bears, you don't want to call it the Tigers, you don't want to call it the Bulldogs, because there's plenty of those out there. So people are looking for other things to be different but along the same lines. Silverbacks is one. Not everybody knows what a silverback gorilla is. Mm-hmm. It had a lot of links to Atlanta. I mean, that was the idea with Willie B, who was a well-known. I mean, when I was a kid, I knew who Willie B was.
Yeah,
that made sense in Atlanta. But as time went on, less people knew who Willie B, the silverback gorilla at the Atlanta Zoo, was. So it didn't really have that staying power, and it sounded like they were trying too hard. I mean, like the the Vipers and the Cobras and stuff like that.
The Rattlers.
It feels like a minor league name. So you run that risk. Then if you don't want to go down that road and you don't want to go American traditional and you don't want to be FC Rochester or Rochester SC or whatever, so then you go down this road and it's like the soccer version of the arena football name, where it feels like you're trying a little bit too hard. If you can overcome the challenges with the branding, you can make it work. But you've created challenges with the branding because you're trying really hard to do something different. And if you pull it off, great. I just don't know if they will, because these are clubs that don't have a lot of resources in the branding department.
Yep.
And that's the number one thing to me here is you would be much better off in this situation if you don't have the money to go out and do a huge branding announcement and explainer and constantly reinforce it. You're better off to be something simple. I really, truly think that. I know this gets people excited, and if they come up with a cool logo and they put out a cool shirt or kit, people will buy it all over the country. But are people going to buy tickets in Rochester to go see the team? Because you're not going to make a living from having just a cool T-shirt or cool kit. You've got to connect with the local community, and they've got a lot to overcome with this. It can happen, but man, that's going to take a lot of work. I don't know. Chiefs coach Steve asks about the thought on Tormenta, and this was something that came up when they were named. They get. And I don't know in that market how they get referred to as much, because the official name of the club is South Georgia Tormenta FC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people call them Tormenta outside of South Georgia, from what I see. Like USL conversation a lot of times is Tormenta. I think it's worked there to this point. I've been pleasantly surprised. They did a big explainer on the name and the branding and the logo and all of that. They were very out in front of it. They also were coming from a different, I think, position to do that, where Darren Van Tassel has the ear of a lot of people in the community. They had a lot of clout straight away. So they were able to establish the brand really quickly. Also a smaller community, I think. I think that's fair. Statesboro's smaller than Rochester. So it's a little more personal. In Rochester, this is going to be a tougher sell to me. In Statesboro, I think it was easier to do all that explanation. I don't know. Colonel says I'm a fuddy-duddy. Says you're a fuddy-duddy. Fair play to Flower City and Flower City citizens. I want to make this clear, Colonel, because I'm looking at it from a survival thing. Is it a unique name? Yeah, absolutely. Unique can be cool. Is it going to help them survive? I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I hope so, but I'm not convinced that this helps them in a big way. And I do have a fear, and I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. You have a lot of small clubs that are starting up in the United States right now that feel like they're maybe branding themselves to be super different. And I don't know if that's going to ultimately work. I think you have to be able to draw in non-soccer folks to be sustainable. And I don't know if non-soccer people hear Flower City Union and know what it is. I mean, if it's SC or FC or United, they know that's a soccer team.
Yeah.
If I hear Flower City Union just in a news dump or whatever, I don't know what that is.
Yep. Is it literally a union?
Is it a union?
Like the Teamsters?
Is it a community organization? Like, I don't know what it is. That's a problem.
Yeah.
To a very narrow base of people like us who are talking about soccer every day, okay, like we're going to hear it, we're going to hear the context, we're going to know what it is, but Is it going to sell you more tickets? Because that's what matters. I'm not convinced it does. But if they can put in the work to brand it properly, more power to them. Adam from 816 is back. Welcome back, Adam. It has been too long.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Welcome back, Jared.
It's just a reunion.
Jarrett Smith is back. What in the world is going on?
If we could do the WWE music, if the WWE wasn't so picky about music.
Yeah, we don't want that. We'll do this, though.
Did John's computer break?
No, that's just it's going to be a shutdown now that you've shown up.
Oh, well.
Just saying.
That's probably the best case scenario.
It might be. It very well could be.
So, Jarrett, the
John.
best... Yes, I was going to say, so the best soccer gift that you ever got for Christmas?
Oh, man. It would have been recent because I didn't get soccer-related things when I was younger. It's because I spent literally all of my free time on a baseball field. Probably came from the Festivus bag, to be honest.
Oh, by the way, Festivus bag is going to be delivered later today.
Fair play. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I never. Like, it wasn't a thing for me growing up. Like it was all baseball all the time. So it is. I come from it from a different angle, let's say, like Jason does, or people who grew up playing. I had friends who had soccer stuff all the time, and they were getting like new cleats or something new to train with, this, that, or the other. But that wasn't. It wasn't something that impacted me directly. So it's a different conversation for me.
What do you think about Flower City Union?
I just got followed by SDH Mateo. Oh my God!
Yeah, did you? Yeah, that was the other thing. Apparently, Mateo has his own Twitter account.
That's happened.
Yeah, it just happened within the last 15 minutes. Mateo
I don't like the look of
rogue
it.
and has his own Twitter account.
Virtual producer for soccer down here, keeping Longshoe and OSG Nelson sounding good and moving along. This is amazing.
What'd you do?
We created a monster.
We did. So Flower City Union, give me the I guess the
Do you know what it is?
Version of what this is. No, I'm assuming it's a rebrand of somebody.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, Rochester, New York has a new NISA franchise.
Okay.
That's
NISA's
the
still
name.
a thing?
That's the name they chose. They're going to start playing in 2021 because there's a big lilac festival in Rochester every late spring, and Rochester is nicknamed the Flower City, and so this is where they're coming up with Flower City Union. What do you think?
Okay. If it means something to them locally, that's cool. You're just going to have to. And I heard the tail end of Jason talking about with branding and making sure you get non-soccer people, but I didn't hear the front end of that. So apologize for if you're repeating stuff for people again.
It's all good.
If it means something to you, and if you can get out in front with the branding, I think it can work. Just depends on how you do with, like I said, how you do with the branding. Are you going to go out there and do something that's kind of built to take everyone by storm initially, like an Appalachian FC or a Loch Ness FC, where you're just getting the name out there and getting an association built? Which, granted, Appalachian FC actually has FC. That takes a lot of the question marks out of it. But are you going to do something that creates a viral sensation that gets out in front of it, and so people can, in the area especially, can associate and know what it is? Or are you just going to kind of, sit with it? I don't know what direction they'll take with that, but I will be very curious to see how they brand it. I got no problem with the idea of it. It's just, how are they going to brand it, and how are they going to get out in front of things and make sure that people know exactly what it is? In the same sense that, like, we've talked before about, like, if you could have, like, because I know that Atlanta United sent out surveys about, team names before the team name came out, that sort of thing. And, people had different ideas about something that meant something to them, that meant
People
something
had
to
ideas,
Atlanta.
that's for
Every
sure.
city does that. Every city has something, but it's a way to, you got to do it in a way that's going to make sure that people know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
City
important.
Union also sounds like it might be like a membership thing at the Atlanta Botanical Garden.
I was going to say it also sounded like maybe a 1970s prog rock band.
Oh yeah, Geddy Lee set in for them once. That was amazing.
Oh, jeez.
And that's the thing. It's like, unless you get out in front of this, and, folks in Rochester might get it. But, for me, I have more questions about Flower City Union than I do, understanding. If, like I said, if I'm coming in cold, Flower City Union to me is either like the Teamsters or it's a rock band.
I wouldn't have thought rock band, but
like I said, 1970s prog rock band, Flower City Union, hanging out with the Grateful
It
Dead.
does sound like
what year is it?
It does sound like a
John?
Canadian prog rock band.
Yeah,
it's not 1970 anymore. Last time I checked.
But still, I mean, to me that just it screams prog rock,
I don't know. I don't get that one, but we do have this. FIFA has made some announcements today, and as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Bureau of the FIFA Council has decided to cancel the 2021 editions of the Men's FIFA U20 World Cup and U17 World Cup, and to appoint Indonesia and Peru, respectively, who were due to host the tournaments in 21, as the hosts of the 23 editions. So, I mean, you've got issues with qualification. You've got issues with doing these tournaments as a whole, because I think the men's tournament would have been early-ish in the year, like May, June. And who knows what May, June look like. So those have been pushed back. This was starting to come out because South America had canceled their tournaments that would have been qualification. So it's not a shock. The women's tournaments have been canceled as well, so I kind of figured this was coming, and now it has been officially announced. So no U20, no U17 World Cups in 2021. So in terms of Atlanta and George Bello and the U20 World Cup, that is not going to be an issue anymore, and it's, for Bello, you're talking about the Olympics, which they do have to do a qualification tournament for in CONCACAF, and we'll see what that looks like. And potentially senior national team stuff, although probably a longer shot there. But no U20 World Cup to take him away from Atlanta United business in the early portion of the season.
USA has to actually make the Olympics in soccer first.
Well, they got to qualify. Like, there's going to be a qualification tournament,
Yes,
probably in February-ish. I think that was what it was supposed to be last year. So we'll see.
Is everyone emotionally ready for George Bello and Ezekiel Barco to both be at the Olympics at the same time, and for Atlanta United to just be like, well,
Miles Robinson too.
Yeah.
It's a good shout.
And they've also announced the slots on the expanded 32-team 2023 Women's World Cup. 29 of the slots are guaranteed, 3 more from playoffs. Europe gets 11, up from 9. Asia gets 6. Africa and CONCACAF get 4. South America gets 3. Oceania gets 1. Australia and New Zealand qualify as hosts, taking 1 slot each from Asia and Oceania. And the other 3 are contested by 10 teams in a playoff tournament in Australia and New Zealand, both countries taking part to play friendlies ahead of hosting the main FIFA event. So that's your layout for 2023.
That works. I'm good. They're expanding it. You'll have a couple of games that'll get off the rails a little bit as you expand it out, but the Women's World Cup needs to eventually catch up to be the same size as the Men's World Cup, and they need to quicken that process a little bit. The Men's World Cup in 26 will go to the 48 teams. Maybe you're a cycle or even 2 behind that to get that big on the women's side, because it's rapid growth as opposed to what the men went to 24 teams in 82, I think, and then their next jump. Oh, when did they jump again? I'm not sure. It's been a few editions though, so Yeah, you got to catch up, but it might take a couple of cycles. So maybe by 27, 31 or 35, you're talking about a 48-team Women's World Cup too. But the allocation makes sense.
And Scotland just their women's manager just stepped down.
Huh? They had a good. I mean, they've been growing. Was there a reason why?
They had a good job until they just spit the bid against Argentina on the biggest stage possible. But
yeah, but that was the first time they had been there for a minute. So, or maybe the first time ever. That Argentina match, that was one of the most bonkers games I've seen in a long time. The Scotland-Argentina 2019 Women's World Cup match was one of the most bonkers games of the last few years.
Yeah, because Argentina was out there with a bunch of amateurs, just rolled up on Kim Little and punched her in the face, figuratively speaking.
This is true.
Jarrett, we also got into what's cooking, because we started with Mike yesterday about with him and the pheasant and the English spinoff of tiramisu. What's the plans at the Casa
I have been following the pheasant gate, I guess, for Mike. I keep track of what Mike cooks because I used to ask him about this stuff when we worked at 92.9 together. When he would come in and be like, what concoctions are you cooking up on the Big Green Egg today? Because he really does need a paycheck from Big Green Egg. He does, because he could convince anyone just about, I think, to get a Big Green Egg. As far as here, I don't even know. We had been isolating, and we were going to get with a family who had been isolating, and then someone in the family didn't isolate, so half the family has COVID, so we're not going to go see them.
That's not good.
No.
So we kind of caught a nail in one of the tires.
That is not good. I got a question for you, Jarrett. If you were Iker Casillas and Budweiser sent you 17 commemorative bottles for the goals that Lionel Messi scored against you, would you be doing a power hour, as Matt Doyle suggests?
I would do a live show while I drank all 17 bottles.
That would be awesome, actually. I would be all into that.
By the 16th bottle, you might get a light buzz.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You could probably go through most of them. I don't know how much Iker Casillas drinks, so maybe a couple more before that.
You're basically Legolas when he has the drinking contest with Gimli.
Oh, I was going to say Johnny Fever with with Venus Flytrap.
Y'all and your references that are in no way anywhere near the same reality. What was your reference, Jarrett?
That's Lord of the Rings.
You're going WKRP. Lord of the Rings. He's going WKRP, which is
always acceptable.
Neither one have anything to do with one another. Y'all are weird. That's all I got.
Happy holidays to you, too.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, that's just how it is. Go from Lord of the Rings to WKRP. Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Welcome to Soccer Down Here.
Yeah, it was where Johnny, his reaction times got faster.
I'm not arguing the reference, John. I'm saying you followed up a Lord of the Rings reference with a WKRP reference. That doesn't happen in most places.
Except here.
Except in your brain.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that was a Lord of the Rings reference, did you?
Oh, good Lord, no.
Okay, that's what I thought. That explains
absolutely
it more.
not.
There we go.
Nick would have.
Nick would have.
This is usually reserved for Monday night because Nick would get these and Star Wars references, and it would click very easily.
I don't get all
he
of.
And I will deep cut our Star Wars references.
Yeah. So. I get the gist. I don't get the full effect of the reference, but I have a pretty good sense of where it's coming from. John just plows straight into 70s sitcom.
80s, well, late 70s, early 80s, yes.
70s. You can get 70s on WKRP. Don't try to argue.
Technically, it's Atlanta radio references, too.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It very much is. It was based on WQXI,
Skinny
right?
Bob Harper.
Yeah. Quixie and Dixie.
There you go. Welcome to Soccer Down Here. I don't know what else to say.
Patrick Sullivan has posted a purported photo.
Do you know what that reference is?
No, I don't.
Well, why
It
don't
looks
you?
like Fraggle Rock to me.
Why don't you try to explain the reference?
Well,
Why don't you
it looks
explain the tweet first?
Well, he says, may or may not be Flower City Union. Merry Christmas, everybody.
So why don't you retweet it from Soccer Down Here?
I did.
Okay. And you don't know what that is?
No.
I want you to try to take guesses on what that is, because I need to be entertained this morning, because I knew exactly what it was, and I was very, very excited by the reference.
It looks like either Chuck E. Cheese or Fraggle Rock.
I really want to fight you right now. You don't know what that is?
Nope. No idea.
It's somewhat obscure, so, I mean, I understand, but the Chuck E. Cheese thing, oh, man, that's upsetting. Jarrett, have you seen this tweet, and do you know what that is? You're probably too young for it.
I'm looking at it right now, and yeah, it's it looked very Muppetish, and then the first thing that popped in my head was like, yeah, this is either Muppetish or this is Showtime. Back when Chuck E. Cheese was a different animal.
Muppet
still in business.
Muppet-ish is the right reference.
So is it a Jim Henson based thing here?
Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Ah.
And the band that you are seeing in Patrick Sullivan's tweet is the River Bottom Nightmare Band.
Okay.
From the Emmett Otter Jug Band Christmas special, which is my favorite Christmas program ever, and it always will be.
I will not stand here for this Muppet Christmas Carol slander.
It is not slandering anything else. It is saying that this is the best. It's not saying anything else is bad. It is saying that Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas is the greatest Christmas special ever devised. Ever.
I'll have to watch it just because of that, but
ever.
We watched Home Alone the other night, and like all I can think about when I watch Home Alone, the first one or second one now, because there are only 2 Home Alones, and they were never made anymore. I heard there were in an alternate reality, but they don't exist in our realm.
Yeah.
But all I can ever think about watching them now is how quickly those movies go from home defense to malice and attempted murder in the span of like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Again, people, I am not disrespecting anything else by saying Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas is the best. It's just the best. Not saying anything else is bad. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas is the best. It was produced in 1977. That's the year I was born. I didn't see it until I was like 5 or 6. It premiered on Canadian television.
I was about to say, that has some big mid-'80s energy looking at that screenshot.
Well, Jim Henson was ahead of the times.
So I'm just trying to date it.
It was produced in 77. It was premiered on CBC television. I saw it on HBO.
Yeah, I was going to say.
When I was little. HBO
yeah.
ran it every year. ABC's done it. Nickelodeon's done it. Kermit is like the narrator of it. So he's telling the story. He's the only like Muppet character that is in it. Everything else is original. And the River Bottom Nightmare Band is pretty cool, actually, for a Muppets show from 1977. But it's a great, great special. I believe you can watch it on, I think it's on Amazon Prime now. It got really hard to find for a while. It was impossible to find. I think it's on YouTube. You might have to do a little bit of digging. It's, what? I mean, how long is it? Like an hour, maybe?
It's not even. It's like 48 minutes for
48 minutes. If you get a chance to watch it today or tomorrow, I highly recommend it. It is on Amazon Prime. Thank you, Thomas Jewin. It's a play on The Gift of the Magi, if you know that short story by O. Henry. It is a play on that. It's a great, great show, and the music stuff is actually a lot of fun, and you know me with music, so. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, Patrick Sullivan wins the holiday season with the River Bottom Nightmare Band reference. And I am not Scrooge because I like a Muppets show. That doesn't even make any sense, people. Jeez. I'm not saying anything else is bad. I'm saying this is the best.
Nathan Pugh is in. He says the best soccer gift for a gangly, unathletic, and unpopular person like me. FIFA 09 on the 360. Liverpool won so many European Cups. I made Paisley look like a total loser.
I liked FIFA 96 that had the Atlanta Ruckus in it
Oh, there you go.
on the Sega Genesis.
Which version was it that I can't? And somebody will know this. There was a version where when you committed a yellow card offense, you could just run around the field away from the ref, and he would chase you around.
It might have been 96. It might have continued for a year or two after that. But yeah, the very early ones, because it was like really similar to Madden and the NHL games where you could do those things.
Yeah, you just run around and like until the ref caught you, you weren't getting a yellow card. I mean, run around forever if you wanted to.
Since everybody's showing up in the Twitch pitch right now, Gustavo has come into the Twitch pitch to say
Gustavo.
hello and Merry Christmas to all and the Soccer Down Here universe and all of Gustavo's friends from this respectable forum. Gustavo's still very happy because Racing lost against Boca.
I didn't think to check Gustavo's feed last night when that happened.
There was either a lot of savagery or there was nothing because Gustavo was enjoying a few glasses of Malbec to celebrate Becasese going down. One or the other.
That's a really good shout.
Yeah, there was probably at least a drink or two about Becasese's failure, I would assume.
Sorry, I'm reading up on Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Okay. That's good radio, good podcasting there. I like it.
Isn't it, though?
Jeez. What do you think about Thomas Tuchel, Jarrett?
Yeah, we haven't gotten into that yet.
Oh, buddy. We talked about that. Like, I think we talked about that green room wise about like, Tuchel going. I think, and Jason called it. I agreed with you at the time. Like, Tuchel's not going anywhere right now.
I didn't expect him to do interviews with German journalists who would take things out of context.
Yeah, like, man, PSG just went full SEC. Like, we're going to get rid of this guy so we can bring in that guy. I'm wondering though, like, so the way they made that move so quickly, I'm wondering how long. Like, it's got to be like disheartening as a manager. I'm here trying to win games, and they're like open. They're clearly negotiating with someone else, and they're just waiting for the ink to dry before they put my head in a basket. It's just kind of how it feels in this instance. Now the question is, where does Tuchel go? And the odds are Arsenal, right?
Got to be.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's written in the stars.
Got to be. Although Manchester United might get squirrely.
I am very man. Can you really? And I know it's Ed Wood, but with the way things have been going at Manchester, in a good way, like
Ed Woodward, not Ed Wood. That's getting into a whole nother weird reference.
Johnny Depp is one of the worst directors ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
No, he has lost the right to word. He can have it back when he does a good job.
That ain't happening then.
So he won't ever get it back.
No.
Man, can you really fire Ole right now with the way things are going in a good way? Like, I mean, if you fire him and bring in Tuchel, you better finish top 3.
Uh-huh.
You better finish top 3, and you better win a European Cup.
I don't think they have the players to do it.
Yeah.
I don't either. So why the hell would you do it?
You shouldn't. But I think that maybe was the plan to let this season ride, and then when Tuchel's out of contract, bring him in. Well, now everything's changed.
Well, stick with the guy that's doing well.
They should. No, they 100% should. Yes, they should, but I don't think anybody's really happy with that because they don't think he's doing that well, which is unfair.
Yeah, well, alas.
Now, Arsenal's going to be the one who has to make a play here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm very curious, if PSG is making this move right now, how many people were standing at the foot of Mauricio Pochettino's balcony with flowers and a band trying to woo him that PSG did this right now? I'm curious, like, how things were moving outside of PSG, because there's no way they were the only team chasing him.
No, I mean, Manchester United has been, and reportedly they have made contact with Poch's people.
So I'm just wondering how that progressed. Like, who did what? Like, who said what? You know, where? And it's hard to sit here and know without having, you know, ears all over the place and little birds telling you what's going on. But how was this playing out?
I don't know. By all the accounts, and I was looking to see if there were any updates out of Europe, and I have not seen one just yet. It is all but down to some signatures for him to end up in Paris. So can anybody hijack that? I don't really see that coming. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. So if Poch goes to PSG, then it becomes Tuchel and still Max Allegri, who is out there, who will be the next two up. And I don't think Tuchel's out of a job for long. The Arsenal situation has to come to a resolution maybe really soon, depending on how these next couple results go. I mean, they could be... Am I jumping the gun here to say that they could be in a very dangerous spot before that FA Cup round with the festive fixtures? I mean, if things go that direction, they're 4 points clear of Fulham right now. They play two teams in that ballpark here coming up, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, if they end up below where they are now, they gotta move on from Arteta, right? Like they can't risk it. I'm all for patience for a manager, and
but you might
time,
have to move on from Arteta right now.
Yeah, well, see, but that's the thing. They play Chelsea on the weekend. You're not expecting them to win at home against Chelsea. That feels like an unfair expectation. But then Tuesday, you go to Brighton, and next Saturday, you go to West Brom.
Yep.
If you don't pick up, I'm even willing to say, if you don't pick up 6 points in those on the road, you might have to make a change. If you lose one of those, and Brighton or West Brom pick up 3 against you,
oh wow,
you might have to make a move then. If Brighton wins on Tuesday, I mean, this is where it gets really tricky. Is even with the Chelsea game, which Arsenal has no expectations of getting 3 points in. I mean, what is everybody else doing around you? Fulham won't have Scott Parker on the bench. He is isolating due to a positive test in his household. He is tested negative. But they host Southampton. Brighton goes to West Ham. West Brom goes to Liverpool, so that's nothing. Burnley goes to Leeds, and Leeds should win that, but that's not a guarantee. I mean, you could be at the end of Sunday's games in a dangerous spot. If you get within one game of a relegation spot, I think Arteta's got to go at that point, no question asked.
Yeah.
And you're 4 points right now. If you get to within 3, you got to go. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Tuchel's got to be that guy.
You can say, "Oh man, that's strict. He's got that's harsh. He's got to win those 2 games." Like, well, he put himself in a harsh situation with the way they play him. There's no reason for that team to be in this spot in the first place. So, I mean, you lay in a bed of nails when you put the nails through the board and lay on it. So,
yeah.
You want some quotes from Marcelo Bielsa? So Bielsa is getting ready for that game with Burnley. We've talked about some of the comments about the loss to Manchester United and people calling Bielsa naive and questioning the style of play. Bielsa said, "I don't worry too much about what the press think. I always listen, read, and take the best possible message from what's written. What does worry me is what's written influences the public. They decrease the capacity to understand for the public. Also, they try to destabilize by suggesting to the players the style needs to be changed. Of course, this happens when the results allow. It doesn't matter if in the previous game the opinion was completely different." He spent 40 minutes analyzing Sunday's game in an answer to one question in a press conference. Accepted that his side failed to convert enough of their chances, said the real reasons why Leeds lost has not been taken into account by his critics. He said, "This is not something new. As media platforms, journalists can only analyze results. Normally, when there is adversity, what you guys do is try to weaken those facing adversity or try to ridicule the style of play of a team." He did talk about the shortcomings in central midfield. He pulled Calvin Phillips. He pulled Klitsch at halftime. said that he's not going to be changing his approach. He explained that in saying that he needed to solidify the midfield defensively, and that's why he pulled those two. And, I mean, were they better in the second half? I think so. He said, I don't worry about the objectives of the press's questions. If I did, I wouldn't be able to manage. What worries me about the press is the effect it has on the public. All my explanations are for the public to hear. I know I lose in this battle. I know the public need a simple explanation, and mine is complex. I don't have the intention that it will be valued or heard, but there is a conduct when you face these kinds of things. It's pretty strong from Marcelo Bielsa, explaining everything. And, I mean, I think he's dead on with people love the style of play, but then when there is a bad result, people start questioning the style of play, which makes no sense at all.
I mean, it's just the reactionary nature of it. Go, Jared.
It's risk reward, and it does make for at the risk of predicting the near future for Atlanta's sake, depending on how we view Gabriel Heinze as the most unpragmatic disciple of Bielsa. It makes for a really fun team to watch, but it's even more fun if you're a neutral and you're not emotionally invested in it, because you're going to get results that are just sometimes it just doesn't click, and sometimes it's going to click, and you're going to go up against a Goliath and punch him in the face until there's no face left, and sometimes it might go the exact opposite. It's going to make for fun watches, but it can be stressful, I'm sure, when you have emotionally tied yourself to that.
John?
No, I'm right there with you, but that's the thing. I thought that Bielsa was right on with what he was saying. And you're going to, whether you're watching Leeds or Atlanta United, you're going to have days like you had with Leeds and Manchester United. And it's just understanding that you're not going to change things because of a result like this. It's reinforcing the fact that you can't just switch because of a bad result, because then there's no faith in what you did in the first place, and you start questioning yourself and all that kind of stuff. And that's where you've got to be that much more resolute in your approach after a day like Leeds with Manchester United.
A couple more things to keep an eye on as we wrap up. Stephen Goff tweeted out that DC United is in talks with Gonzalo Pineda about taking over at DC. Other candidates are still in the mix. At least 3 seem to be in that mix. Discussions are ongoing. No offer yet to Pineda. Juventus are monitoring Brian Reynolds, and Roma met yesterday about Reynolds. Juventus reportedly meeting today with Reynolds' agents. They have not come to an agreement with Dallas yet. Nobody has about a transfer fee, but man, all this is picking up. That's great for Dallas because you got clubs playing off of one another, and that's going to bump the fee up even more. You also,
what is it going to look like for? What is it going to look like for a Miles Robinson or a George Bello when it's time to go there?
Well, Robinson's older, so it's not the same conversation. Bello is the same conversation, except Bello's done more at the MLS level than Reynolds. So that's the one that's a little, and he's a left back as opposed to a right back, which usually comes at another premium. That's the one that's comparable. The Robinson's different. Robinson is older, so you're not getting that potential, bonus in terms of the transfer fee. You're going to expect him to come straight in and play, and he can. But you're not going to get as big of a fee. You would get a bigger fee for Bello because of his age.
Carry on.
That's what I think anyway. Cincinnati, Gerard Nijkamp said that they are looking for a high-profile designated player, a decision-maker. Yes, the Papu Gomez rumor is still there. Nijkamp said that they're on the right track with Jaap Stam. Agents domestically are reaching out. In the international market, everyone understands that it takes time, et cetera, et cetera. He did say this in relation to the Papu Gomez rumor, which I thought was interesting. There's a lot of rumors. You must not believe all the rumors going out. A lot of people like to put rumors out to make the GM a little bit nervous. Thought that was interesting. I haven't really heard a GM say it in those terms before. It's accurate, but that's interesting that people would try to be doing it to affect Gerard Niekamp with these rumors. Yeah. I wonder why Gerard Niekamp is saying that.
I do have questions going back to the DC thing, though. Mm-hmm. We haven't heard much from Seattle.
Just Schmetzer saying that he expects the deal to get done. That was the update, but yeah, nothing else since then.
Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but it's been radio silence since then. Mm-hmm. If DC gets their man, I'm assuming that Schmetzer's going to get the deal done in that instance. That leads me to believe that Schmetzer's going to stay on the touchline. But if he doesn't, and you let the possible successor basically pull a John, you'll enjoy this. Basically pull a Will Muschamp leaving Texas.
Coach in waiting goes away.
Yeah, coach in waiting goes away, and Schmetzer doesn't stay. Then I'm getting out popcorn.
It's going to get weird. I think Schmetzer's going to stay. I just don't see it. So I don't see him leaving. I don't see him wanting to leave. Pineda goes. Yeah, I don't think he wants to leave. So they'll get something done. Will the relationship be strong going forward? We'll have to wait and see. Yeah. He'll potentially have to hire a new assistant because Pineda seems to be the front runner in DC, but that thing has shifted around so much. Who knows? So those are some of the things we'll be keeping an eye on the rest of the day. We'll be blasting it out on our Twitter accounts, Jarrett_Smith, OSG Nelson. Follow him so he can figure out his Twitter because he still hasn't figured it out 2-3 years in now.
Yeah.
Unfollow people that are numpties.
That's what I'm trying to do, and I've got to create the list things too.
Ay, Dios mío. You got to put some time into that.
Yeah, I know. And
please introduce John to Hootsuite. I just want to see what happens.
Look, he figured out how to get on the Discord, and he occasionally comments there. So good for him. That's a lot in a month, Jarrett. You're asking for a lot of things that are probably unfair. Just saying.
I mean, that's okay.
I didn't expect him to figure out.
I'm here to push the limits.
That's true. For those of you who are subscribers, there's a bunch of new ones on Twitch. Thank you. You guys should have your invite to Discord. If you don't, for whatever reason, send me a message. We'll get you taken care of. Patreon members as well. You've got your invites to Discord. That will be continuing. We won't have a show tomorrow morning. We will have a power hour Saturday morning. And you'll have all the Boxing Day games going on. For those of you interested in the Atlanta United Boxing Day Scarf Exchange, it is at Hampton and Hudson. Starts at 9 o'clock on Boxing Day. Get there early because, 1, social distancing. 2, they will go quickly. It'll be a very limited edition thing. So all of you guys, please have a happy holiday. Enjoy it in whatever way you are. Please be safe. Please be careful, but enjoy it and enjoy the time reflecting on a crazy year and how we're going to make the next one better because we're all determined to do that one way or another. So real quick, Abby's asking about the Discord. Doesn't get when we're on. It's not about being on. That's what's cool about it. It's basically like the chat room in perpetuity. So if you guys see something out there you want to ask a question about, throw it in, and I'll come back and answer it when I can. If you see something you want to share with the class, post it. There's a whole bunch of different little rooms in there. There's a soccer over there room that we'll get Nick Alifi chiming in on. There's a nonsense room, so John can talk about 1970s prog rock for sure if he wants to.
Sweet.
He can post his favorite songs if he wanted to. It's like a private message
John
board.
John and I are just going to make a tragically hip room.
Yes!
That would go in the nonsense room right now, and we're not making...
The hip are not nonsense, sir.
Ay, Dios mío, it's a soccer board. That's the whole point. It's nonsense because it's not soccer. God, anyway. Before things completely go off the rails, please join us if you can in Discord if you're a subscriber. Please have a great holiday, and we'll be talking to you on Saturday. Mucho platiel.
Mucho platiel.
Mucho platiel.